Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And during the live stream on Monday, we got this information that these four units would be getting a buff to their skills, which initially, because they didn't actually specify, I thought this was just a flat like we're just gonna buff them because they're maybe not old, but some of them are old, but they're a little bit underpowered for what they need to be. So I went into this thinking, great, Light Shion is an old unit. A lot of people probably have her, and buffing her pierce power from a base percentage up to a higher one is just good. However, when they actually dropped in game last night, they are actual skill revamped units. So this kind of tells us a few different things. Is that one? Pretty much anybody is up for a skill revamp at this point. It doesn't matter when they released, how old they are, what meta they belong to. It might, since all these units are on Gods of Destiny, I guess it does matter what meta they're on. But, Space Shinsha and Space Shion came out this year, right? Like they were not far behind. Well, actually, were they this year? They were. They were after Light 3.0. Yeah, they came out this year. They came out for Valentine's Day. What am I talking about? Anyways, they're new. they're pretty recent, and they're already getting skill revamps, which goes to show that their skill effects didn't go up that much because they didn't really need it, in my opinion. Other units probably could have done a bit better. With other units could have gotten a better buff. But let's go through and, go over what each of these differences does, because that's all in Japanese. So we've gone and pulled up the Goddess of Destiny Force, and we'll start with Shion, Light Shion. So we can fuse this skill now, and let's see, let's go info. So right now, at level 10, she gives herself a 30% attack buff, and then a 25% pierce power buff that increases every time you use a skill for the first 3 turns to battle, and that goes up by 3%. So 25, 28, 31, etc., etc. And as it works the same way as the EX Fantasy Milim, except she's doing crit damage by 3% for 4 turns. So it works like that. But Pierce is an inherently less powerful attack buff than crit damage is. So this, was really good for its time when it came out literally 1 year ago. Literally 1 year ago during the last wedding meta. And, she has kind of fallen off since then. But they have added the skill fusion, and now, when you get it all the way up, she still gets a 30% attack, but now her base starting pierce power is 40%. 15% higher, which, is, 5 stacks that you're just automatically given, which, people were getting about 5-6 stacks to begin with. So that is a huge jump in power. It's still 3% each time. It's still for 3 turns. But starting at 40% now means you're going to go 43, 46, 49, 50, into the maybe even the 60% range, and not on a team that, is focused on low-cost skills. That won't be that hard to do. So this is a very powerful buff for the oldest unit on this list, and I think it's very good. It is just unfortunate that it is a actual skill fusion and not just a straight up power buff. But I think it's actually pretty worth it. Being she is a single target DPS unit, you do want them to do as much damage as possible, and this will help you do more damage. And the other skill revamps I'm not really that impressed with. Some of them are okay, some of them are good, but I personally am going to fuse this skill later on after this video. Just because I like Shion. I like this bride Shion. She carried me through a lot of stuff, and I feel like we will still have use for her later down the line. But moving on to the next character they showed, the Space 2.0 Velsard. This was an odd pick, because Space 2.0 was all about the AoE instant damage, right? Leon does instant damage with his alt buff, Rain does instant damage and she hurts herself, Velsard does the frostbite instant damage. So you would think that because it's all focused on that, they would buff the instant damage or frostbite skill or whatever. They would add a third effect to it, but they didn't. They actually buffed the orb change, which I can't even show you right now because I don't have it level 10. But so she used to change 2 blues to 2 greens. Cool. And then she would give you 10% gauge right here. It's the very standard orb change ability. When you fuse it, it becomes a triple orb change with still the 10% gauge increase. And I don't really understand why. Because, yeah, a triple orb change is cool. They also increase the cost to 30 points instead of 25, which, makes sense because it's the triple orb change. But, Velsard came out with Protector Guy. And what does Protector Guy do? Oh, that's right. He changes 3 blues and 3 oranges to 6 greens. So, did we need a triple protector on the team now? Am I going to use Space Velsard on another team now? No. No, I'm not. Like, EX Mirren does the same thing. She changes 3 blues to 3 greens. I don't take her anywhere else. Because, I'm perfectly fine with Isis as a double green orb changer and the buffer. I don't really need frostbite and instant damage on any other team. So it's a very odd pick for a skill revamp, just as a unit in general, and then probably the worst skill that you could possibly revamp, because it doesn't do anything. It just makes it worse, actually, because now it costs even more points to use her orb change. Excellent. That's what I love. Higher costing skills to do not exactly the same thing, but almost the same thing. So I don't really get it. I do not recommend anybody skill revamp this Space Velsard, because the requirements and the materials necessary to do so is not worth what you're getting back. She's not a true DPS unit. She's not increasing your effectiveness really by any major means with this revamp, so I don't see it. I don't see it being good. Space Shion. We knew she was going to get a buff, right? Because of a couple live streams ago, they chose her out of a hat, and they're like, okay, she's scheduled for skill revamp, which I totally spaced on during the actual live stream, but they're like, oh yeah, no, she's supposed to get a revamp, and she did. It's on her charm skill. So she charms, enamors a single target, which gives you a 15% alt gauge every 3 turns, and then increases her own charm strike. So it's kind of like stun strike, where if the enemy is stunned, you'll do extra damage. If the enemy is charmed, enamored, you will do extra damage by 15%. If you fuse this skill, it then becomes, at maximum power, 25%. So it's only a 10% bump to this skill. And she didn't really need it. Like, she's an AoE unit, right? This is an AoE meta. Both Space 2.0 and 3.0 were AoEs, and the newest Space EX units we got are all AoEs. Haven't gotten a good single target Space unit in a long, long time. But besides the fact, I don't think she needed it. I think she did decent damage without it. And this extra 10% is cool and all. I mean, the cost doesn't change. It's literally just an extra 10%. The charm effect is still 15. So, I mean, I personally don't use this Space Shion for very much nowadays. I don't use her for Valor Cup because I would rather use Yuki. Because he's physical and he gets all the major physical buffs that have come out the last 3 months. Shion is magic, which if we get a lot of magic units, maybe I'll change my mind on it. But I don't really... I think she's fine as she was. And the 10% is not going to be a super huge buff, because it's not like Light Shion where you can stack it up even higher now, right? It's not like, oh, your cap was 40, and now it's, now your cap is now 60 or something like that, or whatever, however many skills you use. This is just 25%, which 15%, 25%, not the hugest deal in the world. So I don't really recommend doing a skill fusion for the Shion either. Remember that the units have to be level 100 to even attempt the skill fusion. of which, let's check it out. Only Shion is level 100. You know, she's close. She's not. She's definitely not. So I can't even skill fuse these 3 anyways, which is just a terrible thing. Then whenever we get the next user survey, that's going tippity top of that list. So Space Shion her skill fusion is okay, but a little unnecessary, I think. And then finally, Space Shinsha got a skill revamp on her ult buff. So currently, it's 70% ult damage and 30% space resistance down, which I guess, she is our single target space unit that I was talking about 5 minutes ago. Oh well. But when you fuse it, it now becomes a extra 10% on her resistance down. So 70% ult damage, 40% space resistance, which, if you're running a pure space team, is pretty good. And it's an AoE debuff, so all of them are going to get it. So you can, have Shinsha do an ult, you can have Shion and Yuki do ults, and they will do a decent amount of damage because of this extra 10% debuff. 40% is pretty good, because we've all seen what, Albus does with Pierce and the 50% debuff. Like, this is only a little bit lower. But again, you need Shinsha at 100, and I don't know too many people that have her at 100. There certainly are people out there that do. But if you were to make a full space team with like the new EX characters and you put Rimuru here, you could definitely bring the Shinsha for this extra space resistance down, because none of the other characters that I just mentioned have a space resist down. They don't even have a space attack up. You'd have to bring Space Milm for that. But I mean, she'll definitely help your damage output. And since we got 2 fairly strong EX space units just last month, it could be a nice power bump. But again, needs to be level 100, and I don't have her. So 4 old units got skill revamps. Shion, Light Shion, I think is probably the best one out of them because her ceiling for it is much higher now. This one was absolute garbage. This one is good, but a little unnecessary, and this one is good, but also unnecessary, I think. It will help these units do more damage and help the team do more damage, or well, this will help herself, but this will help the team do more damage, definitely. So, I mean, if you have all of the 4 units at level 100, my order would be Shion, Shinsha, Shion, and no. Just no. No, don't do that. But that's it for me. Good. It's a quick overview of what happens. I'm gonna actually do this right now, and I will do a new showcase for her at the higher tier of power. But let me know your thoughts on the new skill revamps for these 4 units. Do you think that Velsard skill is actually good now, or do you also think it's pretty ass? Let me know, but that's it for me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.